Hey everyone, Ivy League Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir Silent Gods. For today's video, we're gonna go ahead into the Grave of Venom, and we're gonna do a very free-to-play friendly team composition. Let's farm that legendary gear. So this kind of piggybacks off my video where I had said, help me to help you, right? So I was gonna take specific requests for videos based on which you're stuck on. And well, this one kind of started with my very first comment, which was someone stating that they were stuck on Grave of Venom 9, and they had Erich and Varna and a few other people. And so I was like, you know what, let me play with that idea. But I don't want to go dive right into stage 9 right away. We got to start a little bit lower. Because unfortunately, the reality is I can't undo it, right? If I build a bunch of characters up, like, alright, I'm working with, let's say, Hexandra, level 70, for some lower level content. Once I make her level 90, level 95, 100, I can't undo that on the test server here. We are on the test server, to be clear. And I can't go back, right? Once I get... That is what it is. You can't have duplicates of heroes, so... Yeah, I have to kind of start lower. So I also combine the idea of a couple different people. So one of them being requesting to do some teams for all the dungeons, just in general, with no legendaries. Another being just free-to-play friendly stage 7s and stage 9s of the different dungeons, just to show the requirements of what it really takes to be able to do it. Like, what's the bare minimum to push through with something that's actually relatable? So my initial intent was to play around with Erich because we all get him for free, right? But you know what? In the long run, I found a little bit easier and maybe a bit of a underrated hero that really stood out to me. So, alright. Let's go in here. We're gonna do Grave of Venom stage 7. So this is the stage where you can first get the legendary forge materials. Now you don't get any pieces of the gear quite yet, but that's at 8 you still get a little bit more materials. In 9 you actually get the legendary gear drops. So with that in mind, we just wanted to start talking first about maybe you're one of those people that are stuck just trying to get through 7, just trying to finally get some legendary gear. Maybe you haven't found a consistent team yet. And because I was kind of holding off on my ice and poison comp people, because I do want to see if I can get to that Flora boss and use some lower level, not, you know, level 90s or 100 for that. I wanted to do this with Fire and Radiant. I wanted to see, alright, let's say that's what you focused on. Let's go. I want to help the people that maybe are still struggling just to get that legendary gear in the first place. A lot of people started playing a little bit late, or you're like me and you just played a little bit slower. You didn't go crazy grinding for the first few weeks. You actually chilled out. So yeah, we're gonna take a look at this. So I want to tell you what we're working with. This is a fun one. So my initial plan here again was Erich. And then I also had Netta in here because she's wild, right? And even with making her 5 stars so she can get a negative rune, even with changing her gear to HP and defense for said situation, I just could not keep her alive. And of course, I have only purple epic gear on everybody because we're trying to get to the point of farming legendary gear. So we have to assume you don't have any legendary gear yet. And man, even at level 91, with this bonuses, she just kept dying. I just didn't have the survivability to have her and Erich in the team. So I took her out, was my first step, and I still had Erich in here. And I brought in Carrion. He's a same synergy for Radiant and Fire, and he brought in some extra healing and defense up, recovery over time, a shield, and I thought the support would be enough. But I still was not having success at stage 7 with Erich in the team, he just, even though he's pretty good, I gave him crit damage and then I gave him attack here. Maybe I could have done HP or defense. I was really struggling with the survivability. He was just dying the soonest, and yeah, it was a battle. So I started lower and I was working up higher, and I was able to get through stage 6 with Erich and Netta instead of Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow, whatever we want to call him, Brody. I was able to get with these two to 6, but actually putting in this fella here is what got me through stage 7. So there was another change I made that I found very important with this team I'm working with, which of course I'll show you everybody. But my biggest help was also making sure Horus was not getting debuffed. That decreased defense debuff that the boss places really was hitting hard. So you can see he has over 200 resistance, so he's not consistently getting the decreased defense debuff put on him. So what we're talking about here is we have the wisps, we have the harpy. The harpy's pretty simple overall, but it's the wisps that actually put the decreased defense on you. Overall though, honestly, the harpy's not like too complicated. It's more so just if you want to deal with the wisps. You could actually have someone like Talwar in there that throws up a summon, and then the wisps start attacking the summons instead of your character, which is really nice, the mushrooms or whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, the harpy is a pretty simple boss. It's more just survive, honestly. But I found having resistance on my tank to not get the decreased defense put on him was a huge help. So that's kind of where I left off. I also found that the defense aura ended up being the most beneficial. So we're going in here with Horus as our tank. Our DPS is actually Brody. He is a defense-based damage dealer. He also puts up an increased defense buff and dispels shields, which is going to come in handy for another one of our bosses. So building him was smart. Attack penalty 2. Now this is probably his most important aspect of this team because survivability was key. The team I was using before I put him in had no decreased attack, and everyone was just getting hit too hard. So maybe now if I put in Erich instead of another healer, we might be able to get by. That's possible. There's some other flexibility we can play around with here, but I really wanted to just showcase this team and I thought it was very good. We have a Dubak here. So I wanted to bring in a fire or radiant shield for the whole team. I wanted to bring in more support, not the adventurer, because they're at fire, they're just going to do damage. They're not going to help keep us alive. And I really thought I needed the more survivability. He does have this stun, which is not going to affect the boss, so not too important. This again, they're not getting control. This doesn't really affect the fight, and yeah, the defense in all battles could come in handy. So I'll show you the rest of his gear after, but we also are bringing in our common healer, our radiant healer as well. So we have 2 healers, one being the common and one being the rare. She's here because she has a pretty big heal with 25% of the target's max HP. Unfortunately, it's not her max HP. It's based on the target, so it's not ideal. But here we are using the common healer at stage 7, not just like 4 or 5 getting started with the epic gear. We're using the common healer to push us through to farm legendary gear. So I'll talk about their gear and why I chose what I did a little bit more after the battle, but let's go ahead and roll this. So I do have him in the front to make sure he's getting all the attacks. I did try moving him and then putting someone else in the front just to soak up the damage, thinking it was tanky, someone tanky enough, and then I knew that he would run in so the formation would stay the same, but it did not work. They just destroyed Carrion. I think he's just got much better stats overall, and yeah, he's my tank. He's beefy and he's got the resistance built up, so he's prepared for this battle. Alright, I did not use any consumables, but if you know you're low on certain stats, you could always use consumables as well. So let's go in here. So Brody is my DPS, which he might not be the obvious DPS, because you're just like, oh, he's just a support guy. He brings you... He's defense-based. He brings you some debuffs to help deal with the fight, but he actually smacks. He's actually doing really well here. And because he's defense-based, it's so easy to build him tanky, right? When you can have a defense-based damage dealer in these dungeons where these bosses just hit really hard, if he gets hit, he's fine. He can survive these hits. So you're gonna see the wisps keep attacking Horus, which is fine because he can take it because I built him strong enough. We do have everybody grouped close enough to where they can get the shields. So that's the disadvantage of these lower tier commons, rares, and even some of the epics still. A lot of them don't have a very wide range for their healing and shields. It's not like you have the whole board to just heal all allies, period. You have to worry about if they're going to be close enough to be able to take advantage of those heals and those shields and make sure the formations make sense. But here we go. I actually lost her. That was a first. Last battle, I did not lose her. This is the first one I've lost one of my healers. So let's see if we can continue without her. Go figure, right? Go figure. I hope I'm doing the right difficulty. Was it stage 7? I hope so. I mean, it's bound to fail when I'm recording, right? That's exactly how life works. So we lost one of our healers early on. So this is gonna get a little bit risky, isn't it? We'll see. It looks like we're going okay. Oof. Brody definitely needs those heals. But luckily, Carrion here has that extra single target where he adds a shield and continuous heal buff to one ally with his battle skill. That's going to come in handy. He also has a chance to heal extra with his passive. Whew. But the fact that Horus is not getting that decreased defense debuff on him, you could notice the resists. He's not getting it all the time. It still happens here and there, but it's not happening constantly like it was happening when I first was going, and man, it definitely helps for the sake of survivability. So this is interesting to see. It looks like we're going good, even though we lost our second healer pretty early on. It's getting risky. It's getting risky. Maybe I gotta beef her up a little bit more, but hey, that's what we're doing, right? You're probably going to run into some lack of reliability because you need to get that legendary gear to push these higher stages. So as you slowly get a few more pieces here and there, it's going to make the battles easier and easier as time comes. Plus, we are using that rare shield fire hero, the Orc. I really don't think he's that great, honestly. He's just there to give me the Fultz 5-man synergy. But honestly, I think at the end of the day, if I was willing to use Hexandra and my Adventurer at level 90 or 5-star level 91 plus, you know, to make sure they can have that extra rune slot, I really think that this would be just fine as well. So if we could have the Ice Adventurer in here for protection and shields instead of the Fire Healer or Shielder, the Orc, that would be fine. And also, I think we could take out Carrion or our common healer and put in Hexandra as well. That's just another option if you haven't built the other two Radiant healers and you have built Hexandra. It might be worth trying the same team, but get rid of this Orc and get rid of one of the healers and try the Ice Adventurer and, yeah, Hexandra. I really think you could still push through, at least at stage 7. So this is a little bit risky. As you see, she did die early. It is what it is. She died a little bit early. But look at the damage. Our lovely Jack Sparrow here certainly pumped out some damage. But even with her dying, we still pushed through. So that was really nice to see, honestly. We could probably bring in some more damage potentially, right? If we have more survivability. But I don't want to push it. It's pretty risky as it is. But it is really nice having a damage dealer that is defense based. So that's where this team came into play. This could be something you look at if you're looking for something to just start pushing into stage 7 to start getting that legendary gear. Obviously, if you have now with Erich and doing a wild team with the same synergy, if you have Tunnelnon, I think she'll be more help. The lizard, the epic lizard. But honestly, well, I didn't have her. So, well, I have her. I don't have her on my real account. And I realized a lot of people don't have some of the key epics. So it was kind of more fun to try a team that didn't involve the obvious. No Furboth, no Vorash, no Tanonan. Those are probably the 3 best epics in the game, at least in the top 5, right? And I thought it was kind of fun to bring him in because I feel like he's finding his place to shine with some of these dungeons. So with this really great Dispelling of Shields, which is very specific, right? Dispelling of Shields. It's not a debuff cleanse. It's very specific in a good way, right? Let's talk about the other dungeon. Grave of Curse. That boss puts up a shield. Guess who I'm gonna build for my team who I can't push through high levels of Grave of Curse. I'm stuck. I think I need this guy. I think he might be my answer, although I haven't built my Fire and my Radiant team on my real account yet, so we'll have to see. But I was really happy to bring him in. So this is my DPS. So potentially, if you have a stronger built character, if, like, I couldn't get Erich to work in this team though alone. He just was too squishy. So maybe if I put a defense or HP rune on him, maybe if I sacrificed here with crit damage and with the attack, if I added survivability, he would have been okay because being a legendary, he does have a little bit better base stats. But this was just so much more secure. Look at that. 31,000, 50,000 HP on this guy. So let me get out of the way so I could show you what we're working with here. So I'm going to make myself smaller so you can see the sets. All right, so let's go through the gear. And I'm going to talk you through my thought process. So when I build him, he has a buff. His damage is based on defense. He does apply decrease attack 2, attack penalty 2, which we really need him to land, so he does need accuracy. And then when an enemy gains a shield, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this did not matter for the current fight, but again, we'll use him in the future. So with his battle skill in mind of trying to apply this attack penalty as often as possible to make sure that he always had it on the boss, plus the fact that he'd be doing some good at defense-based damage, I did decide to use the Ancestor's Candle as his artifact. This allows you to have a faster recharge time on your battle skill. And that battle skill is what I want. For his kit, I feel is the most important, just to make sure we can keep attack penalty up the whole time, as much as possible, at least for those big smashes from the boss. So I did go with that. Now, for his sets, because he is defense-based, I did go with Granite Will here with the defense and HP, extra things for your... Sorry, extra set bonuses. I felt like that was more helpful. Plus, he's a melee damage dealer, so having some extra survivability is not going to hurt for him being on the front line. And so I actually went with an accuracy chest, though. Accuracy chest, because I really needed to have no concern of him placing the decrease penalty. Or decrease attack penalty. Yeah. I keep wanting to call it different things. I'm sorry, guys. Attack penalty debuff. Decrease attack. Too many games. So, as you can see, I have like over 200 accuracy here. It's overkill for this stage, but it's fine. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. But luckily, we do have the information for each boss, so depending on which stage you're trying to fight, you can tell exactly what you need for accuracy to land your debuffs. Crit rate gloves are what I put on him. He doesn't have amazing crit rate, but he has almost 70% here. Or no, 69, yeah. Almost 70% here. He has 69% crit rate. And I did go ahead and give him a crit damage rune and an accuracy rune as well. He does, like, for this stage, if you realize you have more accuracy than needed, I could sub this out and maybe put some more defense for sake of the damage. But I didn't want to be at that borderline of we're barely there for hitting our requirements of, like, what was it, like 150 or something. So I went ahead and left the accuracy there. And then as far as other stats, I was really just looking for crit rate, crit damage, and defense as much as I could, as well as accuracy for sake of him landing that debuff and doing damage. So it was fun to build a defense-based damage dealer. I really like that. It was different for me because it's something I'm used to in other games, but I haven't been able to do that too much in these. So that's where he was. I did put him up to 5 stars so he could have this extra rune. And that's one thing I noticed, guys, when it came to what was really required for the stage 7. These people at just level 90, that was just barely good enough. This 4-star without being able to put in another thing, not good enough. Although I did end up leaving her, the common, and this rare because I don't think they're really worthy to take up another ascension level. It's just so expensive crystal-wise. I wanted to not put them up to 5-star if possible. It really doesn't take too long to get someone to level 90 once you get grinding, and you can do the higher stages of Goblin. But man, once you get past level 90, you know how hard it is to get those extra 50 epic level crystals for the rank increase. So I tried to avoid that. Alright, we have Horus here as well. So Horus is our tank, and because he does have this nice smash here with his ultimate, which is AoE as well, a little bit, I did go ahead and put the defense penalty crown on him. If you are lucky enough to have the legendary version, this is great for him as well. It's also got HP, not instead of defense though, but hey, survivability is still good for the tank, so you can't lose. But absolutely, if you have Witch's Remains, that's pretty good for him too. Whoever your tank is, Witch's Remains or the Crown of the Unclean is a really good option. This is my trouble. This is the, like I said, resistance. I had to go over 200 resistance in order to get him to not get the decreased defense debuff every single time. It still happened every now and then, but this seemed to be so much better. He was dying probably a little more than halfway through the battles when he didn't have enough resistance. So getting some resistance on your tank to make sure they're not getting that debuff from the boss's little wisps, I think was really helpful. Alright, so we have resistance on the rune, defense on this positive rune, defense percentage chest, and defense percentage gloves, and then the stats to go along with it. I did initially have all of the Granite Will with HP and defense percentage, but I did change one out to Blessing so I could get a little bit more resistance. So we're here with a Blessing set, and we're here with a defense HP percentage Granite Will set as well. So that's what he's looking like. Lots of HP, 53,000 HP, 2,800 defense. Pretty solid there. Of course, he can be a lot better once you start getting those legendary pieces. Then you can start plugging those in and he's going to help you push to the higher levels. But honestly, the reality is, I don't think anyone should be expecting or really trying to do stage 9 of any of those dungeons until you have legendary materials. I know you get better drops, but you kind of need to have a little bit of legendary gear built into your kits to really boost your stats, unless you got extremely lucky with OP legendary heroes in order to push those stage 9s of all the dungeons. Alright, so our other character that I ended up using was Carrion here. So he's here for just more support. So I did put the incense burner on him just to come back to his ultimate more often to provide that heal. I do actually have this attack set on him for a reason. Skill Haste. Skill Haste allows us to come back to our battle skill and our ultimate faster. So that's why I have this on him. Unfortunately, they changed stuff. We used to be able to have a Skill Haste rune. It doesn't exist anymore. You can see in the filters, that's not an option at the top as a primary attribute. It used to be. That's one of the other changes from when I played just before the CBT2, is they got rid of Skill Haste being a main stat, which is weird. I don't know why, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's fine. We just have to get Skill Haste by putting attack gear or accuracy with Skill Haste gear on our heroes. But he doesn't need accuracy, so I figured at best we could just benefit from whatever damage it gives us. And I have HP rune, HP percentage chest, HP percentage gloves, and then just whatever other survivability I could get out of him in completing the set, but nothing perfect. None of this gear is like looking for every single piece of stat being perfect. It's just whatever I had on the account, which is not as much, honestly, as it looked or seemed. So he's here. Actually, let's go her. Let's go to her. She is our common healer. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. She's our common healer. Again, also, she's in full attack gear, right? But that's here for the skill haste. I wanted her to come back to her healing as much as possible because her heals are based on the allies' HP, not her HP. Of course, I wanted her to have the best survivability as possible, so I did go full HP percentage and then HP for this as well. I could probably go defense too and it'd be okay. But yeah, we're just looking for survivability. I'm looking for resistance as well to make sure she doesn't get controlled or any debuffs in other fights, but it really didn't matter for sake of this boss. I did go ahead and put the mirror on her as well, which is level 12. All of these I put up to level 12 because I figured they are all strong pieces, except for this one was only 8, actually. They're all pieces that are worthy of leveling up, I think, that could trade in no matter what your team may be. So that's talking about the crown, the mirror for your healers, the candle and the incense burner for whoever has your better battle skills and ultimates. And then I also have the statue, which is not on anybody, that I love to put on the main character. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at there. And last but not least is our shielder. Another support hero that I really haven't seen many people use, Dubbock. I don't know that he's worthy to really prioritize over the Ice Adventurer, but I had him in here because I really didn't want to put my Ice Adventurer up to level 90 for sake of survivability to use as my shielder. So instead he's my shielder, and at least he's part of the elemental affinity and alignment, so that helped. He does have this shield here for all allies based on his HP. He also dispels a control debuff, which does not affect this fight. He can stun, but again, does not affect this fight. And yeah, same thing here. When they're controlled, he recharges ultimate. Not gonna matter for this one, but maybe some of the others, really. And then increases all allies' defense by 18% in all battles. So this aura actually came in handy and ended up being more beneficial for some of the fights I found. And we have... skill haste was what I was going for with him, so I ended up doing the same thing, just trying to come back to those skills more often. I did go with the accuracy set in case we're doing something where we have the waves that we can control. Having a little accuracy on him is not going to hurt. So I wanted to have some skill haste and survivability, so we have HP percentage, because that's what his shields are based on. And then we have, yeah, just resistance and HP, so he's not getting potentially less chance to get some debuffs in some of the content. And same thing here, I kind of focused on HP because that's what his shields are there for, and that is the Troll's Heart, which gives him extra HP, and then defense and resistance are the main stats, so that's really helpful too. So it was fun to use someone different that I wouldn't have just picked right off the bat. So that was kind of our team, and these two are only 4-star rank, not 5-star, and we were able to push through. Now again, obviously you could sub, if you have a better, you have one of the amazing legendary radiant healers like a Cilia or Mithrasia or whatever her, what was that her name? What's her name? Mithrasia, yeah. If you have one of them, then you're obviously much more in a golden situation. You might be able to plug and play, but if you're having trouble with survivability in the Grave of Venom, give Brody a shot. Give our Jack Sparrow a shot. Hope this was fun, guys. I really want to try to showcase more random teams that are actually free to play, friendly, and I thought it was a different one that maybe everyone wouldn't just be trying to use at first. But does this work in other dungeons? I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out in another video. But that's all for now. I'll see you in the next one.